Good morning from Southern California, here in my backyard. I'm getting ready to fly out here. Another hour or so, a couple hours. Headed to Texas this week. But anyways, I just wanted to share some thoughts that when I first heard it, it kind of concerned me. And then it verified what I've been saying for a long time in a sad way. Not that it's entirely the truth, but I'm just being a little snarky this morning because it tends to bother me. And so the issue that I came across was a series or things that Tucker Carlson was saying. I guess through March he did some studies on American males and the decline that has been taking place over the years and decades, and had to do both with medically, physically, in the workplace and education, suicide rates, and on it goes. But anyways, he was just, it caught my attention because, I had jokingly said to my daughters, which I'm a father of 5, and I jokingly said to them, you know what, there's no more men out there, In one way, I'm just kind of mocking the other generation that's, for whatever reason likes to play video games and sit around and, not exercise, not do outdoor activities. Now, I'm not lumping all men and young men into the same boat, but, watch the decline in our military, saddened by the fact that they're feminizing it, even across the board, all branches of service. But, as a former Marine, I tell you, it saddened my heart when I came across a young man who had just got out of basic training, and he told me how they had let women in boot camp with him, and he seemed very sad. I talked to a friend of mine who pastors near Camp Pendleton, and he told me he's seeing a lot of these young men come into his church that are kind of have a sense of shame because they went in expecting something, and it wasn't like they thought. And this is due to the leadership in our military. They've been, they're woke, and so everything leans towards that, which is sad, but it's affecting young men. It's defeating them. And so my pastor friend told me that even in his beloved Ranger school, he's, former officer in the Rangers, he says that, they've done that too. They took this special elite force there, and they basically watered down the training so everybody can make it. And so it's just across the board sad. But factor that in with the fact that they said, I guess a recent study, a large percentage of young men going into basic training in the Army couldn't even pass the physical training part, which is sad. And so you factor in also the fact that they said the testosterone levels had steadily decreased over the decades, and so, which kind of verifies the fact that, like I said to my daughters, that they don't make them no more, And so there's a lack, I guess, in the male hormone, which makes men men, which is sad. It could factor into the rampant pornography, could rampant into the gradual decline of boys being allowed to be boys and everything being tempered, grading on a curve. I read a book years ago called One Nation Under Therapy. It was back in the 90s, and this particular doctor, she was a female, she was doing this study, and she called it for what it was back then, in the 90s. And she says they are basically feminizing our boys, and they don't want them roughhousing them. They don't want nobody to win a baseball game or any kind of sporting. Just everybody participates, everybody gets a trophy. And when you have that kind of atmosphere, it kind of defeats the purpose of what boys are. I have a friend who's raising a couple of boys, and his neighbor took note of them, that they're outside playing and having a good old time and just being boys. And the neighbor, an older gentleman, asked he inquired, he says, "Hey man, it's good to see your boys outside playing." And my friend stated to them, he says, "Well, I'm trying to raise men," which I'm glad to hear that, praise God. And so, but the sad truth is that, if this is a truth, and it, Tucker Carlson and maybe others are bringing this to the forefront, it might be a fringe topic, but it's sad if there's a decline in masculinity and men in America and the West, Not that we lead that particular issue, but we can see that this great population here that we have in the United States of America is declining as far as men goes. What a sad statement that is. But yet I hold to the promise that was spoken by God to Elijah. You know, Elijah was feeling depressed, like he was the only one left, and feeling like there's nobody else serving God but himself. And you know, he had those bouts. I still believe that, you know, as in that day, God had reserved 7,000 who had not yet bowed their knees to Baal. I believe there's still some young men with potential, young men that are contending, believing God for the destiny that they have for their lives, that are contending to be a man and lead their home and marriage and, you know, whatever the future might hold for them. So I'm holding on to that. And I'm praying that God gives these kind of young men to our pastors across the fellowship, across the globe, and we could see a turnaround, at least within the people of God in the church community and the fellowship abroad, of men being men, you know. And if you happen to be one of those that is kind of slacking, you know, you know, I'm not here to, you know, say anything that, you know, I'm not the measuring stick of manhood, but you know, some of us older guys, we can tell, you know, if you got it, you got it. If you don't, you don't. So, you know, some of you probably need to get around some of the older guys who got it. You know, maybe rub off on you and help you. And don't be a whiner and complainer because you got your feelings hurt. You know, suck it up and be a man. This is what we need today. And so anyways, that's me being snarky. Till next time, keep on keeping on.